Hey, it's Jeff Timborello. I am the director of the Southwest Florida RIA. I'm also the broker of Steelbridge Realty, and I am here with Gabe Falk of That Sweet Rentals. And full disclosure, he also is with Steelbridge Realty. How you doing, Gabe?
I'm doing fantastic, Jeff. How are you doing today?
Good. So we're here to talk about you guys do roommate rentals. Tell us a little bit about Gabe and particularly how Gabe got into real estate.
Well, I guess the easiest way to put it is I come from a family of real estate. It's in my blood growing up. And I saw my father managing rentals for his sister, Linda, back in Miami when I was a kid. I would follow my dad around and see him collect the rents and manage the properties and do some repairs here and there. And then at the same time, I had a mom that wasn't doing so well financially. At a young age, my parents got divorced, and my mom was, not together with him, and she was living in welfare and Section 8 housing. And I would see the inspector come by every year to do the recertification process, and would always look for certain things that he had to do to approve us. And I used to ask him a lot of questions as well. So I got really intrigued, and I would ask him, well, why did the smoke detectors have to work, and why did the water have to work properly under the sink, not leaking anywhere? Or the windows, why did they have to lock all the way to make sure that they sealed fine? And the screens, they would always make a big deal about screens for some reason. So I think with the background that I had with my father and watching him do his thing, and then watching the inspector do his thing on the Section 8 side of things, I was just a kid full of questions and curiosity. And my mom didn't have a lot of money, Jeff, so she always tried to find things that we could do that was affordable. And if that meant free, free was where we went. And
Free is the most affordable.
Yes, yes. And for my mom, free meant finding all sorts of fun things for us to do in Miami. There's always something to do down there. That's where I'm born and raised. And, I have to tell you, one of the things that she loved to do was she loved to dream. She loved the idea of dreaming about us moving into a big house and having a van and having the family together a lot. So we looked at this community in Hollywood, Florida, in Broward County, that was called Westlake Village. And they had brand new construction that was being built. And she used to take us over there on the weekends just so we could look at all the brand new homes. And it was a way to spend the day out there, look at houses. Now, of course, the realtors wanted to sell, but my mom was a dreamer. And she didn't realize this, but she was planting the seed. She really was planting the seed, just taking in what my dad had done, and then her taking us to look at all these beautiful homes when we didn't live in a nice home ourselves. So it was a big of an upgrade to come to these homes that were selling back then in the 90s. They were selling for $99,000. And, today these are homes that are selling for $1 million. And I've checked the comps just to see how far we've come between then and now. And it really blows me away to see how real estate truly is the best investment you can do over time. It really helps. You can become financial freedom, you can rent and such. So I already had that seed being built within me at a young age. And because I enjoyed real estate, I went to go look at it. I loved it. I still do. It's a passion for me. It doesn't feel like work when you're so passionate about what you do, so yeah. So a little bit about my background, how I got into real estate and roommate rentals specifically. It had to do a lot with the economy, but most of it had to do with, as a kid, I wanted to have apartment buildings. I wanted to build something big. And it all started because of a certain series of events that occurred. And I'm going to share it with you because it kind of tells you how my mind was thinking when I was about 12. Are you ready?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So we were living in this apartment building, and you have to understand, on my mom's side, my mom wasn't doing well financially. But on my mom's side of the family with her parents, my grandparents, they did do well financially. They had clothing stores in South Beach. They everything was about business. So my sister, my brother, and I were always constantly in the store working and helping and learning. And my grandfather used to tell me about diversity and not to judge people based on how they look, but to accept anyone and everyone as a person, because in the end of the day, we all bleed the same, blood. We're all the same. We're just coming from different walks. And I had realized how important it was to be transparent with people growing up. So when I was on my mom's side living at this apartment complex we lived in, this property was probably about 5 or 6 floors in height in North Miami Beach. And it stemmed across the entire building, probably had about 15 units with 5 or 6 floors up. So it's a pretty decent sized building. And to me, it was like a dream if I would even have something like that one day. So I was following the Section 8 inspector one day around, and he had finally passed our unit, our apartment. And then I asked my mom if I can go out and follow him to the other units that he had for the day. And he kind of took me sort of like, I would say, a son-like role. I think that he had a son himself that he had always said went off to college. And I think he really missed having his kid around, I think he liked that I was always asking him so many questions, and I had so much interest in wanting to know more about what made things pass.
So the handyman for the apartment complex took you under his wing. Did he teach you karate too?
No.
I'm thinking it's the whole Mr. Miyagi Karate Kid story.
I'll get into that. Don't worry. No, this inspector was not the handyman. The handyman was another person named Frank, Efrain. That's later on. Yeah. Yeah. So you thought hands on. Oh, memories of Efrain. What a good guy that guy was. Guatemalan fellow. Such a good guy. He's big on family and stuff. Well, the inspector, though, I was following him, and this is what happened. So we had a corner of apartments that went down a row, and I was not allowed to come inside the unit because, it's privacy. You have to think about that. So he told me this, and remember, I'm about 12 years old here. I was a kid, and he looks at me and he says this. He says, listen, you can't come in. You're gonna have to sit there on the floor. You can wait in the corner. I was like, okay. So I sat on the corner. I'm relaxing. I'm just waiting for him. And for some weird reason, when he knocked on the door and the tenants came out, the way that I looked at it at that moment, I looked at them where they stuck their head like this out. They're like, yeah, come on in. I looked at them like they were a giant gumball. I don't know what came over me, but the vision in my mind was they were a gumball. And the building, I know that sounds so crazy now, but I guess the craziest people in life do the most creative things, right? So yeah, I'm not there yet, but I still have creativity. And when I was 12, I had a lot of creativity. And I saw these people bounce their head in and out, and they looked like gumballs. The building looked like a giant gumball machine. I visioned in my mind going back into my apartment. I took my book and my pencils, and I started drawing what appeared to be a building, like what I lived in. But then I made pictures of gumballs through every single apartment going down the row with their heads out. And I looked at it and I saw the elevators going down. And then I put little gumballs bouncing out of the elevator. And for that moment, I thought of, well, wait, is it really that they're gumballs and I'm interested in gumballs? Or is it that I'm interested in an apartment building that I don't have, so maybe I want to create something like that? And then my mom is not doing so well financially, so I want to also help people have affordable housing. So it's a mix. I started thinking. And instantly, because I didn't have money at 12 to buy an apartment building, I thought, well, you know what I can do? I'm turning 13 soon. My bar mitzvah's coming up. I might get some money. I used to sell snacks and drinks at the park to subsidize money I would get from Costco and buy snacks. And I used to sell, and I would get lemonade and sell to the, the neighbors and stuff, and candies and gum and all sorts of stuff. And I started to think, I was like, well, wait a minute here. Why don't I buy a gumball machine? Start small, build myself up. And that's sort of how it started. I had set some money to the side. By the time I turned 13, I bought one of those spiral gumball machines that go down and you put your quarters in. Mm-hmm. And I went around to the local stores, and I asked business owners if they would allow me to put a gumball machine in their business. I started out with a car wash first, then a tuxedo shop, then a bowling alley, and I just kind of started that route. And it all started because of the thought that I saw the apartment building with the people bouncing their heads in and out. So I said to my mom, Mom, would you be open to us going to a convention show at a hotel? And she said one question. She said, well, what is it for? I said, it's for vending machines. There's a machine coming out. It's called the Antares. It's a 3-in-1 vending machine. And it's like a refrigerator, and you open it, it has sodas, it has snacks, it has candies and gum area and all this. And I'm interested in checking it out. I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford it, but I want to go. And my mom said one question, Jeff. She said this. She said, are they going to serve food? She's like, it's a presentation, no? I'm like, yes, it's a present. Yes, they're going to have food. She's like, okay, then we're going. That's it. We went. It was free. Again, free. But we knew how to find him, and it had food. So food brings people together, Yeah. So we went to this convention. They were like $8,000 machines. Of course, I couldn't afford it. That was nuts. But I made it out like my mom was the one interested, because I was a kid. I was a minor. So I said, Mom, just tell them that, it's you. So I got a testimonial list that they wanted to prove to people that they were really, truly going to have, I guess, success if they got into the business. And I took the list, and the list had people that were involved in the gumball trade for Antares machines. I mean, they're going to love me now if they're still in existence. I'm giving them a great plug, But what I ended up doing was I went down the list, and I called a bunch of investors, business owners that already had a business doing this. And I went down the list, and I asked all of them questions, and I said, how'd you get started?
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Business. I just Googled it.
You did? They are in business?
Yeah.
Great. Good for them. They're awesome. They're so awesome.
Used, but I'm sure they're there still.
Oh, nice. Very cool. Well, I'll tell you what happened. I came across this one gentleman, and he's on the phone with me, and he says to me, he's like, what are you, a kid? What are you doing? Because I sound so young, my voice wasn't cracking yet or whatever, I was like 13. So I said this to him. I said, listen, I'm trying. I'm a young kid, yes, but I'm trying to build something. I have some money tucked away. Not a lot of money, seriously, not a lot of money. But if you're willing to do a financing deal with me, maybe I can take a couple of your machines off your hands that aren't doing so good like the rest, and let me know. And I don't know what happened. He took an interest in me, and he said, come meet me at my storage, bring your family, and we'll see what we can do. So I showed up in my mom's Malibu. We drove out there. The car was falling apart. She had all sorts of issues with the thing, but who cares? We got over there. It was a drive, and that was the problem, that my mom didn't want to do it because it was so far down in South Miami, and we were living at the time in North Miami Beach, so we had to drive like a far distance down near the, I think it was in Doral, like in South Miami, near the airport down there, the Miami International. So we went down there. We showed up like at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, and the guy comes out in his souped up Corvette. I remember just looking at this Corvette and thinking, wow, he's doing well. I want that car. I want to do whatever he's doing, And he opened up the garage of this outside storage, and there was like 12 or 15 Antares machines. And 2 of them were in boxes, all shrink wrap, never even opened. Trying to cut straight to it. End of the day, I worked out a deal with him. He had allowed me to do like a payment financing agreement, and I was able to get the machines. He even got me a U-Haul, and we brought him to my apartment that I was living. I don't, when I think back at it, my mom was nuts to even allow this. It was nuts.
Yeah, what parent, or even if you're the guy on the other end, 12-year-old kid that's got entrepreneurial dreams, who's going to not help that?
Yeah. But the thing is we lived in this 2-bedroom apartment, and when you came in to the walkway, the kitchen was right there, and the opening, there was no space dimensional wise to fit these refrigerator size vending machines through the door. And well, to my mom, she didn't care. She let me do it. We didn't think about measuring. So we had to take the door off the fridge. We had to position it, get it through. And we did. We managed to fit 2 of the machines in. And for like the next 5 months, Jeff, nobody could get through the entranceway to the kitchen without like going to the side. Oh God, it was nuts. But we did it. We managed. And it gave me motivation to get them placed sooner because they were so big. So as I grew bigger in vending, doing the vending business, I wanted to come up with streamlined approaches to do real estate, because real estate was always my passion, and it was what I really wanted to do. It was just money. I didn't have money. My dad's side of the family being wealthy in real estate and managing rentals in areas that were of lower income and folks that just needed, they needed a place to live. I did not have money to get into that. I was just a kid. But as I grew older in life, I got a lot of knowledge from my dad's side of the family. I wasn't super close with them, but I learned just enough by seeing my dad and seeing his interactions with his sister that I learned enough. And then my grandparents on my mom's side were business people, and I knew they knew what they were doing. I also have an uncle, his name is Bruce, and he's also involved in real estate. So he does a lot of things, and I would always ask him questions. Then my mom's best friend, Candy, which she's down here today, I'm actually training her to be our property manager. She was married to a real estate attorney, and she was living in San Francisco, California, and then she was living in Las Vegas, and she's involved in real estate. She has a whole background. I was basically positioned with all the right people, I think, in my life that basically turned me into the person I am today. I had all these right people and the right guidance, and my sister and I were always incredibly close. We're business partners today with the companies, and we have a brother named Jonathan that is, unfortunately, he's not well mentally. He has his own issues, and I sometimes think that the struggles of watching him and what he went through and all the visits we had with therapists and coping skills to learn how to deal with him, I think it's because of him that my sister and I are so empathetic, that we're compassionate in trying to help people that are not doing so well. It's a mix from my mom's side of living in a low-income setting, that I was already constantly around folks that didn't have a lot in their life. But then I saw things from my mom's parents' side, and they did well financially and lived in nice places and helped my mom with moral support and taking care of us whenever needed, but just didn't give my mom the money because my mom wasn't good at budgeting. She did the best that she could with what she was able to. But when I think about it today, going back, she had a lot of struggles. She was going through, losing the relationship with my father, and having a son, her very firstborn, have schizophrenia and bipolar manic depressive. He has a lot of problems. And then she was dealing with 2 other kids on top of that.
Yeah.
I try to relate to understand today what she went through. And I think she did the best that she was capable with what life threw her way. So that's what I'd look at it.
Cool. So fast forward a little bit. you and I talked about this already. Market blows up. You see an opportunity, take it from there.
Okay. So I'm gonna go a little bit back and tell you how the opportunity started for me and what people need to look out for the future. So in real estate, 2006, I moved up to Fort Myers. I saw an opportunity. Then I thought that was an opportunity. It wasn't an opportunity. I learned a lot of struggles through that experience that I think has made me stronger as a person. But my sister, Annette, who's my business partner and our office manager today, she moved up here to this area because her then husband, ex-husband today, they were together for a long time. They had a beautiful daughter together. She moved up to Lehigh Acres during the boom time, 2005. They bought a house, and he was a dump truck driver. And, you know, he did very well for himself financially with him and the family while they lived up here. And I was getting kind of tired of living in Miami and the lifestyle, the materialisticness, the congestion of traffic. I was just getting tired of all of that. And I was, at the age of 18, I became a promotional spokesperson. I was doing local promotional gigs for Fortune 500 companies, and I was working at conventions and trade shows, all for speaking engagements. And I loved it. And I saved up a lot. And I said to my sister, I'm like, Annette, we're like two peas in a pod. I see an opportunity. I think I'm going to move out to Fort Myers. I see that there's a lot of building going on, and you love it out here. So I'm going to come up, and when I travel and I work, I'll travel, I'll be away, and I'll tuck away money, and then I'll look into investing. But I didn't see the crash happen because I was so naive. I was so young, and I didn't understand what I understand today. So that fire in me in the background of wanting to own apartment buildings were still very, very strong, like it is still today. And I lost my condo in a foreclosure. I had to take a step back because of what had happened with the economic crisis that we were involved in. And I took a hit with the stock market. I had investments in that. And I had my monies tied up in my condo that I had remodeled. And it was a devastating time for me to take that, because I had phenomenal credit. My dad used to tell me, always keep your credit excellent, because you'll never know when you'll need it. And and for me, that really hit hard home to have to walk from I was so upside down on my mortgage, it wasn't even funny. And you know, my condo, I had bought it for $139,900. It sold for $37,000 at foreclosure. So I was so upside down. But I never wanted to lose sight of an opportunity of life and what was to come. So in 2009, when the crash happened in 08, 09 time, I saw an opportunity. I took a pay cut on my promotions, and I went back on the road and I traveled, and basically I tucked away as much money as possible. And by the time I made it back into Florida, I had almost $80,000 in cash saved up. And I said, you know what? I may not be able to buy an apartment building, and my credit is destroyed at the moment. However, you know what I can do? I can buy some, you know, homes in lower income neighborhoods, but it gives me something to start out with to get going again. Well, I had bought this very first house, and there's plenty of bedrooms. It was like a 3-bedroom home, but it had a family room. It had a den. It had a sunroom. I didn't even know what the heck a sunroom was, but I learned that after buying that, you know. And I had all these extra rooms, and I was like, wow, what am I going to do with this place? I could do so much. And I thought, well, you know, I'll rent it to a family. And I did. I rented to a family, and they ended up losing their job, and they wouldn't leave. I had to learn about cash for keys, basically, because I didn't know about evictions. I didn't know how any of that worked. I didn't even know that you had to technically go to court to get somebody out. I just thought, you don't pay your rent, get out of my house. That's not how it works in real life.
Cash for keys, it's painful because you're giving someone money that owes you money.
Yes.
But it Generally the smartest way to go. You can get your home back with no damage. I always use it as a win-win when I would do
Yeah.
it. There's some people that just, there's too much friction, so you can't reason with them. But
Yeah.
I always did hey, I don't want to evict you. When we file eviction, it's on your record. It's going to be a lot harder for you to rent.
Yes.
So let's part ways and go our separate ways. And it's painful. I handed somebody $500 that owed me $1,000. I mean,
Yeah.
that
I'm
was a
sure it
tough
hurts.
moment.
Oh no, I know. I know. I think for me, what I've learned through the process is you have to know when to pick your battles wisely. You know, there are some folks that you'll give them the 3-day pay or vacate. They know they got to go. They know it's going to affect them if they don't. They know they lost their job. They can't pay for whatever reason. I would say 90% of the time, those folks have left without a problem. They don't always keep it clean when they leave, but they leave.
No.
And the 10% of the time that I've had, to do an eviction, I can honest to God say that the times that I've done an eviction, those people truly deserved it. Because what I've done prior to help them and still do today with certain folks is I go through leaps and bounds to try to get them to leave in a satisfied way that everyone is happy. Whether they leave on their own and I don't go after them for the rent balance and what's owed and they put it in broom swept condition, or I simply offer them a cash for keys, maybe $300, the cost that it would cost me to go and file the eviction in court and get them out with that money. They save me the time of a month of the process. They don't get their credit destroyed. They don't have a bad mark on the record when other landlords, search them up. It's a win-win. And only very seldom I do evictions, and that's when I cannot come through they're not willing to leave, they're not willing to work with me, and they essentially they become a squatter there, and you're forced to do it. You're forced to, and it still hurts when I have to do that to this day because a lot of people don't realize what it does to their record. I mean, it. You're the director of the RIA. You're yourself a broker. You have your successful real estate business. You see it yourself firsthand. When you have somebody with an eviction, you're like, no, I'm not accepting them, right?
We found that particularly if they've been evicted, there's even some we've seen multiple times.
Wow.
That they now know the system and they know the game, and
Yeah.
it's really a game. I had a lady that I rented to. I had a house in Pine Manor, and I did the old, hey, her car looks nice. All her tires are matching, okay. Now, because I was rehabbing the house, I was busy. I'm like, yes, I'll put her in. And I never did a background check.
Oh,
So
no.
then, it got me. I mean, I should have wrote her a check for how much she taught me. But when I go to evict her, and she quit paying when it was time, because there's no way I was going to renew her lease. And then she quit paying and then started, the whole this is broke, that's broke, that they all do when nothing broke. And when I ran her name, she had been evicted like 7 times in 10 years.
Oh my!
And you could look at the time frames that it was if it was a 6-month lease, at 5 months she was getting evicted. If it was a year's lease, and how she saved for the next security deposit was she would quit paying the rent, save that money so she could move, and this was how she did it. And me at the time, it was the first eviction I'd ever done. So I did a 2-count eviction because I was angry, which is I want my home back and I want a judgment. Well, on a 2-count eviction, they can request a hearing date without putting money at the court. So she ended up in my house for 2 months, and then they trashed it on the way out. And I mean, I won and I got my house back, but first of all, I'd never do one without a background check again. And she knew she was 1 step ahead of me on the eviction because she had been through it so many times. So that's really why so many landlords don't want to rent to somebody who's had evictions, because they now know how to play the game.
And you're completely right. They do. We have tried to help folks with evictions before, not more than one. As a way to help. But I already know in the background that if I have any problems with them with paying rent or getting out because of an excuse, I'm already on my guard the moment something's about to happen, because I acknowledge that a lot of them know the background of what takes place. And we've gotten to a point these days where we're actually not wanting to accept folks with evictions anymore because we've already learned. I've done a percentage scale of checking everything across our databases, and I see firsthand what has happened. And I think out of 7 out of 10 that have had an eviction on the record that we've accepted and they left, 7 out of 10 has been an eviction again, a second go around, because they refuse to leave. And the 3 that end up leaving when there's a problem, they really do leave. So it's a very off-putting percentage to have 70% of it still have to be another eviction again. I mean, yeah. So I'm very careful with who we accept. But I'll share with you this. How did the roommate rental start? Is a very interesting situation. I had the house, and I wanted to basically rent the house out to that family, and they lost their job and everything happened, and I had to pay them some money to get out of there. That was the end result because I didn't know enough about the process of eviction to throw myself into it yet. And I paid them a few $100s. Everybody left, and that was it. I took the house back. I had to do some painting. I had to do some cabinet stuff with the kitchen. I had to fix some things with the tile and the flooring. But overall, I got to a position that I was like, I got all these rooms here. Why don't I just do this? Perfect idea. I want to own apartment buildings one day. So why don't I just do this? I'll move in. I decided to move in, and I have all these rooms. And I decided to go. I didn't have a lot of money because I was flipping on another property. I was getting into flipping, and I was trying to do the bear strategy. Like on Bigger Pockets, there's the bear strategy. You buy it, you renovate it, you rent, and you repeat it, rinse and repeat. So I was doing that. And I thought, well, I'm going to definitely keep this main house because I can live in it, but I'm going to get creative. I went on Craigslist. I put an ad up, and I said barter trade for services for free rent. Are you handy? If you are, we need to meet. I have to do an interview first. I have to background check you. We're going to talk. And if you fit that criteria of what I'm looking for and I'm a good fit for you, I want you to come move into my house. And exchange, you're going to provide me with barter of services, fixing up the house, painting, help me side by side with fixing things. And then in exchange, I'm going to give you time of rent for free for the barter. So I got free work for a time that a place would have just sat vacant because I didn't have enough at the time to get it fully rented and the condition it was in. And I was going to live there myself. So I wanted it to be halfway decent. I don't want to live out of a box, but I wanted it to be somewhat decent. So It worked out. I ended up meeting 3 really great people. I met a gentleman named Chris that we're still friends with today. He lives in Indiana now. He's married. He's a great guy. And he became my painter. And eventually he became my painter for other houses. I had to do more stuff. Then I had another gentleman named Ray. He was a handyman by trade. He came in and he helped me fix things up. And he taught me things. I felt like he was a dad-like figure. And he was a great handyman, And then there was a third. It was a gentleman that I was on tour with when I did my promotions. I was doing something with the U.S. Army tour. And his name was Sergeant Daniels. And he used to vent to me how the vets didn't have enough help and there wasn't enough affordable housing. So I always thought, well, if there's so much chronic homelessness out there in the world and there's so many people living in benches and they're not getting enough help from the VA, well, then why don't I come up with a system to maybe house them? So the next thing you know, I went to the county and I said, hey, guys, I want to make a meeting. There's a lot of houses locally around here that are sitting vacant and abandoned, and people are squatting and breaking in and stealing copper and breaking in and taking appliances, and they're doing all this stuff. And the doors are being left wide open while I drive by. There's no one living there. It's terrible. And I'm here trying to fix it up, the area. So why don't we come into like a partnership of sorts and set up this meeting, because I have a really great idea that I want to do, hence roommate rentals. That's how that came about. I had this meeting, and I have to tell you, I was by myself with a notebook and a pen, and I had no idea what was going to come that day. About 20 people showed up to this meeting. County commissioners, Sheriff Mike Scott was there, People from the Lee County Department of Human and Veteran Services came, had a whole bunch of people. All because my marketing background, I made it out so much bigger than what I could even handle at the
So you're
time.
essentially, it's like the fire festival.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. It's crazy. So I told them my idea. They recorded the whole thing. I was writing my notes. I explained what I wanted to do. I said, listen, if you're a college kid and you go off to college, you're going to more than likely rent with your friends in a home and be roommates. So why don't we consider that I do something like that? However, I'm going to do it for chronic homelessness, and I'm going to do it for the vets, and I'm going to do it for all other folks that just need a hand up, and do it where it's affordable. And I want to see where you guys can come into play here, that maybe there's grants, maybe there's move-in assistance, maybe where we can work with their income or no income, where they can maybe come in and help. And we can see that this can become scalable. And I got the green lights. I started with the first house, eventually the second, then the third, then the fourth, and now we do a mix today of single family homes, and our specialty is roommate rentals with several other properties. And basically it's a person, they have a private bedroom. We usually furnish it, or it can be unfurnished. And then that means it comes with a television, a bed set, a dresser, their closet. They share the common areas with the other roommates. So they have access to a kitchen, a laundry if we have washer and dryer. A lot of our properties are now coming with that. And, if we have the living room, the dining room. Not all the places have a living room with the TVs, though. We try to limit doing too much where people kind of come and together to hang out, because they end up inviting too many people over that when it's supposed to be a household of just for roommates. So we have to be careful when too many other people shouldn't come, because that's how folks start to bring, not exactly the people that should be living there, and people overextending their welcome as a guest. So we're learning systems. Matt, my best friend, he's our operations manager. I know him back from high school, and he's a person that has always been really good at organizing and streamlining processes. I have found the proper people to put in place. This business is nothing without the proper people in place. You have to know what your strengths are, what you work at your best. I'm phenomenal at my marketing and my negotiating tactics, and how I run my business. I'm very meticulous and very detail oriented, and I make sure that I work best in what I do well in. And I've done it all, though, Jeff. I've started from fixing up my own houses and maintenance and handling tenants. I'm still a property manager today. And today I have brought in Candy, my mom's best friend, her very first American friend. Because my mom is Cuban and my dad was American. So I have like a little bit of the best of both worlds. I'm bilingual. And I brought Candy down. She's bilingual. She's got a real estate background. And I'm training her today to be my replacement as a property manager, so that I can then become not just the founder and president, but I can become like the director of acquisitions. I will continue to build us. And we have a nonprofit as well. Beside our for-profit, That Sweet Rental, we have a nonprofit that we just got off the ground that we're in process of doing things right now. It's called Happy Home Journey. And that's going to be set up to work in collaboration with That Sweet Rental to help people have self-sufficient housing and learn how to become self-sufficient on their own. And we're excited for the future and what's to come. There's a lot of things happening. And the Miyagi, the wash on, wash off with the Karate Kid, that was a gentleman named Frank. He was a person that worked on a golf course. And when I was a kid, I used to love hitting the range with the golf balls as far as I could. I made a deal with a general manager that I would stop driving my GoPed. I used to have a motorized GoPed that I bought with bar mitzvah money as a way to grab my gumball machines to drive it from different locations. And he used to hate that I used to cut off the golf course and make the wheezing noise with the go-ped. So I said, you know what, Dick, you want me to do a trade-off, I won't drive through here anymore, but you got to give me time at the golf course so I can hit the range. We made a deal there too. So yeah, got stories.
So tell us about the mechanics with the roommate rentals. I did one. Actually, I had two. One, I ended up, one of the tenants fell asleep with a cigarette, had a fire, nobody got hurt, and ended up working out.
Yeah.
I had another one where one came home, messed up, and ate the other one's Captain Crunch, and then they were arguing and calling me at midnight, and that was pretty much the end of that roommate rental. I told everybody, go find somewhere else to live. I'm not listening to this.
Yeah.
The cash flow was pretty amazing. I did really well on the cash flow side, but for me, it was just too much brain damage with everything else I had going on. So how do you guys manage it? Because you've got, personalities and all that to go with it.
Okay. So that's a very good question. I have a great answer to that. The biggest thing is this. You have to have the right people in place with the best strengths with that particular position. So years ago, my phone number today that's used for the company now, the 239-465-1274, our phone number. That used to be my personal cell phone number. And let me tell you, when I used to do ads and syndicate all over the web, I used to get 20, 25 phone calls a day, and it was brutal. You're eating at a restaurant, and all of a sudden a pouring of phone calls are coming, and you're like, oh my God, back to back. It can get crazy. I realized that what's important is a streamlined system approach. We got a special telecommunication system that we use today that has an IVR menu. It streamlines phone calls out to the proper people. So eventually I turned that phone number and I made it the business phone number. Then I got a personal cell phone with my own separate phone number so that I only gave that out to those that really needed to have it. Tenants would not have my personal cell phone number. They would have the now business cell phone number that became the office line that got routed out to me personally on my phone. They would never know the number. My sister, I made her the office manager. I was never good with handling mass amount of paperwork. I'm good at doing leases. I'm good at doing applications. I'm good at handling the day-to-day. But the organizing and the necessary task of like the taxes and the paperwork and all that kind of stuff, my sister is brilliant at that. So I have directed her and delegated those tasks for her, and that's why she's not just the vice president, she's now the office manager. So she's come on board to help me with that. And she helps me with investments. She knows the keen eye that I have for finding properties. So I handle the marketing side of the rentals. I handle the buying and the purchases, and she stays out of it. And I give her advice to give me when I need it, when I'm really unsure, and she comes into play there. Matt is my best friend, and I realized that he always had a keen sense of streamlining and organization skills that I did not possess. So I surround myself with people that I feel have maybe better strengths than I do, or that potentially I may have the same strengths, I just don't have an interest in handling those tasks. And years ago, while I was building things, I was handling all of it by myself because I didn't have the money to allocate to all of these people. But along the way, as I built bigger, instead of being greedy, I put myself to the side, take a bit of a pay decrease so that I can help, financially be able to allow them to come on board while building us up bigger. Because later in life, we'll all be making plenty of money as a family. We're doing this as a family. I don't like to look at anyone that works for me as they're just an employee. They're just a person. They're actually family. They're the heart to this business. And without that heart, we're nothing. And without our tenants, we're nothing either but a bunch of empty property sitting vacant. So you have to give the right attitude. You have to give the right loyalty, the right appreciation for your staff. And then you have to give the right attitude and appreciation for your tenants and fix things. On a streamlined approach, I have the right people doing the right jobs. When tenants call to have a problem because of their Captain Crunch cereal is getting taken, I have Matthew handle that. He not only handles streamlining approaches, but he's our operations manager. He handles tenant complaints and issues because Matt is the type of person that he can be short and to the point, but he's able to listen and take what is necessary from that and then apply it to what we need to do to resolve it. And he's good at that. Me, I'm too caring, too compassionate, and I want to do everything. And sometimes I forget that I also need to draw a limit. And I'm working on that. And I'm getting there, which is interesting because for my tenants, I will bend over backwards for them. But as a businessman making a deal, negotiating, I try to find a fair win-win for all. But I'm more of a I'm going to get this done. And I'm not going to bend over backwards like I did with my tenants. I think of it like it's a numbers thing and it's finances. And I have to think, is the numbers going to work? Because if the numbers don't work, there's no deal. You have to think of the strategy that if we had another economic downturn or a correction or a crash, are you going to be able to withstand the heat when you have to drop the prices of rents? And if you can say no, you can't buy it. Or you can do roommate rentals and be creative. And that's how you push through it. And I think that's what helped me at that time too. It's a cash cow. It is. You really do make a lot of money doing it. But it's not for the faint of heart. You have to have the proper team in place to handle such a business because you are making good money. Absolutely. You are.
Give us numbers. Tell us like one house, kind of just run through some numbers.
So I always try to buy a property that I know the cash on cash return is going to net us about a 25 to 30% return. If we're not getting that after all of our utilities, all of our expenses, we're not between the 25 and 30% mark, I don't try to touch it for a roommate setup. Today, prices have been going up. As a result, it's difficult to get the 25 and 30%. Today, if I can get us at the 20% mark, it's a doable deal because I have to be realistic with where we're at. In the past, though, versus now, things are different. In the past, we didn't have a cleaner. We didn't have flat screen TVs. We didn't have washers and dryers. Today, we have a cleaner that comes to make sure the properties stay clean in the common areas. We have surveillance systems now. Not at all, but we're getting there. That's a good way to minimize your problems with tenants fighting over taking their food. If they know a camera is pointed at them in the kitchen, they think twice about taking someone's food because they know that they could be checked on later on the he said, she said. Whereas in the past, it really is a he said, she said, and I have to go around to all the tenants in the household, ask them if they're all having problems, and it becomes a babysitting. So roommate rentals, if you're not willing to be an adult babysitter, don't get involved. This is not going to be your bailiwick. Don't do it. Go in, have a property management company handle your single family rental, enjoy your nice, easygoing cash flow, and do that. But if you're a risk taker like I am, and you've got a love for people, and seriously, you have to love people to be involved in roommate rentals. If you're not, don't do this because you have to understand that you have to do more patience and compassion. A lot of these folks are in a situation that they're in and why they're roommate renting when normally they could have been living on their own. They could have financially afforded something, but they're not. You have to understand that there's a reason behind that too. As a result of that, there are also people that are doing well financially and they just need something temporary while they're deciding if they're going to buy down here or something, which if they are, they should reach out to me because I'm a realtor with you through Steelbridge Realty, guys, just to let you know. See my marketing? I can't even help it.
You're talking about people down on their luck. I was doing for a long time a veterans breakfast where we would pick up the homeless veterans at the behavioral center there on, I think it's Tice.
Tice
And
or
we would
Ortiz.
bring them, feed them breakfast. It was me and another guy. We're both combat vets, and we would, talk to them because they're veterans.
I know you're a vet, and I'm incredibly grateful for your services, by the way.
Thanks. But we would take these guys to breakfast and talk to them. And I remember I had one guy in the van on the way there, and I recognized him because he had came to some RIA meetings. And at one point in '05, he was an electrical contractor, probably billing $150,000 a month.
Wow.
And had just, divorce, gambling, drugs, completely lost his way. A big menagerie of all that. And kind of blew me away to see the guy in that position. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, the guy was balling. I mean, and, the irony of that was there's nobody else in the van that had ever made $150,000 a month. So I'm like, just do it again. But when we would talk to him, but yeah, it's people down on their luck, or may you be shocked at who you run into and what they were, and then eventually where they'll end up again if they decide to fight their way through it.
Yeah. Well, what I've learned through life, and I know I'm only 33, I think I do have an old soul. I've been told that a lot. I think that people as a whole, we're at a certain cloth. We come from a different background, and there's a lot of people that are the herd. They like to follow the herd, and they don't ever know how to become their own person in their own skin. I always tell people that if you have a certain way that you think, and it's a bit different than how out of the box than how other people think, you're going to be able to rise above anything that's thrown your way. Things that happen in our life is temporary. It doesn't mean it's forever.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously. And if you already have it in you to be successful or to strive to be successful, just because you falter and you crash doesn't mean it's forever. You recharge, you get back on again, and you do it. And that gentleman that made $150,000 a month, which that's phenomenal.
Oh, that's
that
gross.
Already.
Yeah,
oh,
that's gross. But still, that's a lot of money.
That's phenomenal. Yeah. He has something that a lot of people don't have. And he's figured something else out. And what he was going through at that time, I'm sure was a very big hardship in his life. But if he was able to do what he did prior, and hopefully he doesn't lose his way, he'll get right back to it.
Cool. So, Gabe, what is the future for That Sweet Rental? Where are you guys planning on launching into?
Well, That Sweet Rental right now is in the process. We are doing cash out refinances with our properties. We've appreciated a ton over the years, and we've been taking cash outs out. We're trying to scale up. We're looking into maybe getting partners involved to become silent investors with us, where they can enjoy long-term returns. We're not doing anything at the moment. I'm just kind of talking about it right now. But the plan right now for us is we have plans to build a tiny house community and micro suite apartments. We have plans to build a community that's going to be for anyone and everyone that just needs affordable housing. But we also have plans to build other types of developments that are geared towards helping the homeless, low income, folks with mental challenges that want to become self-sufficient as well. Happy Home Journey, our nonprofit, is going to be doing some big things. Look out in the future for updates on that side. We are on Facebook. But That Sweet Rental is planning to become the very best in property management. And we're going to continue to strive and grow and do our best to become bigger. And that plan is to continue to buy more homes. And the plan is to build our own apartment complex of micro suite apartments and sprinkle in tiny houses. We want to work with local county zoning to get things on the ball, to change a concept that is very much needed in this area as affordable housing, but bring it modern and make it so that people would actually want to see it in their neighborhood. I'm very excited to see what's to come with us, especially now that I have Candy in place, training her to be my role as day-to-day as a property manager. And I can open up the time, again, delegate the proper people so that you can work on your strengths And my strengths are acquisitions, negotiating, and marketing. And as a realtor, I also want to help folks with buying and selling. So I also want to open up time in my schedule to allow to help other people buy and sell properties as well. And I feel very, very proud of what's to come for the future. And I'm very happy to have my license hung with you because, you know, you and your wife, Christina, you guys have a vision of how you look at things for Southwest Florida. And I want to be a part of that always. So I
certainly hope we can live up to that.
No, we will. We will. You know, I know you a long time, Jeff, you know, way back before the RIA when I was trying to buy a house and you were the listing agent and we would talk on the phone. And then I always remember your last name. It was always very unique, Tamburello. And I used to see you post on Bigger Pockets and I would watch your charts and you analyzing things. And I used to think all the time, like, wow, this guy's a genius. I love his charts and his videos and his talkings, all your postings that you did. And then to have met you at the RIA and in person and stuff. And it's bittersweet in a way when you think about it. It's just, I like what we have today. And I like to see what we have in the future with business, friendship, everything that's happened. So
cool. Well, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, Gabe, how would they go about doing that?
The best way to reach me would be, you could reach me at my phone number. My cell phone is 239-465-0161. And my email is GabrielFalkRealtor@gmail.com. It's spelled GabrielFalkRealtor@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook, Gabriel Falk Realtor. And just reach out because I'll be happy to help you and do the very best that I can to work with you. And not just sales, not just buying, guidance, advice. I like to help out people. That's just my nature.
Awesome. Enjoyed this. Look forward to posting out and seeing what everybody else thinks about it. Thanks, Gabe.
Great. You're very welcome. Thank you.